Okay, so yesterday we have discussed about the first part, introduction. In that, we discuss what is Linux. Linux is an open source operating system. So first started with the definition of operating system. So operating system is a collection of program which acts like a interface between the hardware and software. Using that, we can operate the system. So most commonly used operating system is Windows and Linux. But we are discussing the Linux administration using Linux OS because Linux is more secure. Because of that, most of the companies prefer to use their server on the Linux. So today we'll discuss why the Linux has been preferred. Yes. So yesterday I told you Linux is an open source. Open source means the source code of the Linux kernel which is designed. So the complete Linux operating system is divided into two parts, logically, not physically. First part is shell, second part is kernel. So the Linux kernel, which is designed by the Linus Torvald, he put it the complete source code or whatever coding or program he has written to develop this kernel, Linux kernel, he put it over the internet, which anybody can access and modify. That's why we have so many flavors. We discussed yesterday some of the flavors like Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, SUSE, Debian, Turbo Linux, Boss. So out of that, most of the servers in the Linux are working on Red Hat. So we are going to discuss this course through Red Hat using CentOS. Because I told you for Red Hat, they are putting the charges for not OS to provide the support, but we are using the OS for training purpose. So we don't need any support. So what we are doing, we are using the equivalent of Red Hat through the CentOS. So I told you CentOS stands for Community Enterprise Operating System, the abbreviation. So some people who are working like a Linux expert, what they have done to spread the Linux, they form an association with the name CentOS, and they took the source code from the Red Hat. And whenever Red Hat releases their latest version, they are copying and releasing the exact same thing in the CentOS. So the only difference between Red Hat and CentOS is for CentOS there is no support, but it is completely free. For Red Hat they are charging, but support is there. Okay. So this is what we have discussed yesterday. And I told you Linux is designed from Unix, like Windows designed from DOS. So, but the drawback in the Unix was Unix is a hardware dependent or proprietary based operating system, whereas the Linux and Windows are hardware independent. Means we can install Windows and Linux on any machine. It does not require any specific hardware, which was required in the Unix. Like we discussed yesterday, to install Solaris, we required Sun machine. To install AIX Unix OS, we required IBM. To install HPUX, we required HP machine. Sorry. So the drawback is not there in the Linux and Windows. That is the reason now nobody is using Unix. So whatever commands we use in Linux, mostly it supports on Unix also, because Linux is designed using Unix. Now come to the structure. Structure of the Linux OS. So the Linux complete OS is divided into two parts. Linux complete OS is divided into two parts. The first part of the Linux OS is called shell. So when we open the terminal, we'll go to the shell. So what is the role of the shell? What is the role of the shell? Shell will act like a command checker. So shell is not present in the Windows. So shell is the interface between the user and the kernel. See here. So shell is here. The user is sitting here. So it is an interface between the kernel and the user. What the shell will do? It is a command checker. Means the command is given by user or the administrator. First it will check. Then some commands, only few commands can be used by user and all the commands can be used by administrator. So once the command is given, first it will check who has given. After that, that user, if a user is there, it will check that user have the privilege. Not have privilege, it will simply write it. Cannot access or permission denied, access denied. But it administrator is using that command means it has to execute. So before executing, it will check. Before executing, it will check the command is given proper or not, even by the root. So the name of the administrator in Linux is root, please remember. So whenever root given the command, so that command has to be executed, but that command is correct or not, proper or not, given by the root. So I have logged in as a root, so I have given the command properly or not. So it will be checked by the command checker. So if the command is proper, it is correct. So if the command is not given proper, immediately you will get the message, command not found. The error will come, invalid command, like that, invalid command or command not found. So, so now if the command is proper, what the shell will do? It will accept the command. So generally the command is given in high level language. So machine means hardware of the computer does not understand the high level language. So once the command is correct or proper, so what the shell will do after, if the command is proper, it will accept the command and then translate it to the binary language, because the next part of the Linux OS is kernel. So the command has to be sent to the kernel. So kernel works on the binary language. So what the shell will do, it will, when the input is given in the high level format using the terminal, the command, first the shell will check whether the command is correct or not. Once it is found that command is correct, then what it will do, it will convert that command into binary language and it will send to the kernel. So the kernel is the main part of the Linux OS, which is called as the core, or you can also use the simple word brain. So what is the function of our brain in our body? So whatever activities we do, it will be controlled and managed by our brain. Brain will not do the work, but which part of the body should do what work when all this has been controlled and managed by the brain in our body. So exactly same way, whenever we are doing any task in the Linux, the kernel, when we have to first give the command. So when we give the command, it will be in high level language using the terminal. So the terminal, when we open, that is the program, and that program is a called shell program. So the shell, what is the default shell we are using in Linux? This is the program name, bin/bash, default shell in the line. So it will check first the command is proper or not. If it is proper, it will convert that into binary language and send it to the kernel. Now the kernel, which is called the core or brain of the Linux operating system, it is an interface between the shell and the hardware. It is called core or the brain of the OS. Now it will it will communicate directly with the hardware. Now it will decide which particular hardware should do this task. Whatever task or command is written by the root user, it will check the command is proper by the shell. Once it is proper, it will convert to binary. It will send to the kernel. Now kernel, like a brain, decide this task should be done by which hardware. So it will send to that. Now once the task is done by the hardware, because hardware understand only binary language. So now the output comes once the task is done by the machine, that is the hardware components of the machine, then the output comes to the kernel. Now what the kernel will do, now the output is in binary format, so it will send that output again to the shell. So what it will do, it will just convert so it will send that output which is in binary format to the shell. Now the shell will convert the output from binary to high level and displays on the screen. So like in our body, brain control all our tasks. So all the tasks, whatever we are doing through the Linux, will be controlled and managed by the kernel. So now, why the Linux is more secure? Why most of the companies are using the Linux as a server? Because of its features. First feature is Linux has a shell which is not there in the Windows. So first of all, in Windows, if you give any command, suppose somebody sent intentionally some virus file. So now once the file comes to the once the file comes to the Windows operating system, the user knowingly or unknowingly, if we execute the file, the virus will enter. But in the Linux, first the security shell will check that program is there in the whatever the coding or the program written by the manufacturer. So first the shell here is the security level. It will check. So if any unknown file, if any virus file, somebody said it, it will not run. It will not run. In Linux, dual security is there. First of all, the file does not have execute permission. Unless until we don't give, we cannot execute. And who can give? Only root can give the execute file. User cannot run the file, because by default in Linux, the files created without execute permission. Then the security is there. Shell will check that command is given in the predefined command or not. If it is not there in the predefined file commands, then it will not run. So virus cannot enter. And then the other features of the Linux OS is what? So the Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition. So if you see the Windows OS contain or Windows OS can be installed on a single drive like C drive. So inside the C drive, it will have some folders, important folder, Windows, System32, drivers, log file, users, which contain subfolders like administrator data and users data for each and every use, and a program file which contain install application. But everything is in a single partition. Everything is in a single partition in Windows. So suppose if one of the OS folder get corrupted in Windows, entire OS will get corrupted because everything is on a single partition. But in Linux, what we can do, the Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition. I'm not saying that after installing the Windows, we cannot create the partition. We can create. I'm talking about when we install the Windows OS, in how many drive we can install the OS? Single drive. But whereas Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition. So in Linux, if one of the OS folder get corrupted, so it will not affect the entire OS. So that folder which got affected due to any reason belong to which partition, that part only will get affected. That's why it is recommended that always we should install the Linux OS on multiple partition. In Windows we cannot do, only single partition. So that is one of the another feature. Linux is open source. So if any bug is there, so anybody knows the solution, they can do the patching. But Windows and other OS, they are not open source. So if any issue is there, that issue has to be resolved only by the vendor. That is the Microsoft company in Windows case. But in Linux, anybody who knows the any patching or anything, they can attach it because it is open source. It is a open source. And in Windows, whenever you install any important service or big service, you have to restart the machine. When you restart the machine, the server will be rebooting, means at that time the services will be down. The user cannot access the servers. The whatever services running in the server will be not available to the user. So that comes under downtime. Whereas in Linux, whenever you server means which provides service, so we need to keeps on adding very frequently the new services in the server on the production server. So when you add any new service to the Windows OS, you have to restart the machine. Whereas in Windows, we have to restart the machine to start any new service. But whereas in Linux, when we add some new service through our Linux server, we never has to restart the machine, just we have to start the service. So the users will be continuously going to use the services without downtime. So that's why Linux will have more, Linux are more secure, as well as it has less downtime compared to the Windows OS. That's why you will find most of the servers in the company are running on Linux. Instead of Windows, they are running on Linux. So I told you what are the reasons. First of all, Linux is more secure because it has a shell. Linux OS structure is more safe and secure because the Linux can be installed on multiple partition, whereas Windows in one partition. So in Windows, since the OS is installed on single partition, it may be easy to operate, but in Windows, if any one of the OS folder get corrupted, entire OS will get corrupted. But whereas in Linux, we install the Linux OS on multiple partitions. So if a particular OS folder get corrupted, so that folder belong to which partition, that only can be get corrupted, and it will point only. That's point you. That's point that दो मेरे दस उसके दो सही में चिप मार गया लेकिन था देखो हाँ मार गया पत्थर हटा दिया भी क्या करा थी क्या कुछ लड़ाऊंगा 30 सेकंड समझ लेते तो दिन तक सिटिंग पर आ गया से पॉइंट लिया मान बोला था काम ओके तो विश्वास नहीं पॉइंट लिया बोल के विश्वास हो रहा 10 पॉइंट लिया दो बोले तो 10 हुआ भैया भी बहुत अच्छा लगा बोले बाकी करें तो okay, so Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition, whereas the Windows OS can be installed on this single partition. And the other thing is in Windows, if you start any new service, you have to restart the machine. Whereas in Linux, we don't have to restart the machine, so downtime will be very less in Linux. In Linux, the downtime will be very less. So these are the features which makes the Linux more secure. And apart from that, the most important advantage of Windows is, sorry, the most important advantage of Linux is the Linux is since it's designed on Unix. Unix is to be very good security wise. So same thing is carried forward in the Linux. Linux also has very good security. Like in Windows, we have firewall. In Linux, in addition to firewall, we have IP tables, SC Linux, which makes Linux more secure. So these are the some of the important features. Because of that, the Linux as an operating system is more secure and more stable. That is the reason most of the servers in the world are working on Linux. And another thing is in Windows, the files are identified with the extensions. In Windows, the files are identified with extensions like executable file.exe, database file.db, media file mp3, batch file. But in Linux, there is no extension. In Linux, the files are identified by symbols and alphabet. So like dot for hidden file dot. For normal file, first character will be hyphen. Okay. Block file, first character will be B. Linked file, soft link L. Socket file S. If it is a directory, first character will be D. When we start the practical, I'll show you this. First character, just if you give LL or ls space hyphen L, first character. If a first character hyphen means that is a normal text file. Dot means hidden file. B means block file. L means linked file. S means socket file. D means directory. P means pipe file. Which फोन फोन मान लेते तो शेयर कर And in Windows, you have permission. So by default, in Windows, the file will be there with execute permission. By default, it will be there with execute permission. But in Linux, all the files will be created without execute permission. So that's why you can. So that's why Linux is more secure than Windows OS, as I told you. So I repeat once again those features of the Linux. First of all, Linux structure. Linux OS installation can be done on multiple partition. It has better security. Like in addition to just firewall in Windows, in Linux we have additional things. Some additional things we have we have uh, the SE Linux IP tables, so which makes Linux more secure. Linux has less downtime because here we never have to restart the machine when we add some new services. And here the Linux has OS level security also, architecture level security also. So that is why in the so architecture wise we can install the OS on multiple partition. Structure wise, security wise, here it does not have any execute permission. So the files by default don't run, and the shell will check that command is proper or not. If proper, it is there in the predefined, only then it will execute. It will not. So these are the things which makes Linux more secure and more stable. That is the reason you will find most of the servers in the world are using the Linux. So apart from that, Linux is now more in the demand because if you go for the cloud courses, Linux is mandatory. Even if you are going for AWS, DevOps, web, VMware admin, Oracle, Hadoop, SAP. So for this is the foundation course. Okay. So I hope you got it. Why the features of the Linux OS? Why we have to discuss the Linux? I already went through the topics which we are going to cover through this. Now the next thing is what? The structure. The next thing is what? The file system structure, where exactly what data will be stored in the Linux. Where exactly what data will be stored in the Linux. Because because when you are working on any operating system, you should know to operate that operating system, you should know where exactly what data will be stored. So we are more familiar with the Windows. So before before I go to the Linux structure, let us see the Windows structure, where exactly what data will be stored. So you will get a idea when we compare it with the Windows to the Linux, where exactly what data will be stored in Linux. Okay. So up to now, have you understood or any doubt, any questions? Yes, Yunus, Mohammed, Naresh, Gangadhar, Gangadhara. So if you have any questions, any doubt up to now what we have discussed, you can ask. If it is clear, we will go to the Windows structure. Okay. What about you, Naresh and Mohammed? Yes, Naresh and Mohammed, are you able to hear me? Is it clear for you also? Okay. What about you, Naresh? Do you able to hear me? Because you are not replying. Are you able to hear me, Naresh? Okay, so we'll start the practical from Monday onwards. Tomorrow, I'll just go through the Windows structure. Then tomorrow we'll see the structure of the Linux and we'll compare the Linux structure and Windows. So before that, I'll go through today with the Windows structure. So you try to make the payment as soon as possible, maybe by tomorrow, so that on the Monday onwards, we will start the practical. On Monday, we'll start the installation. Okay. So the fee, I think you are aware, maybe 5,000 rupees. Okay. So let's now see the structure of the Windows. So now let us start the structure of the Windows OS. So let us assume that you have purchased one new laptop. You have purchased one new laptop. Uh, uh, I didn't understand, Eunice, you made the payment or what? You made the payment. Okay. Anybody else? Apart from Eunice, anybody else has made the payment? Gangadhara, Naresh, Mohammed. I just want to know it. I think Eunice made the payment. What about others? Mohammed, did you pay? If not, so today is your demo session. Okay, no problem. So you'll see my previous sessions. You can just get the recordings of that, then you decide and at least pay. So you will be paying Gangadhar today. Okay. What about Naresh? I don't know what happened to him. He's not replying. Okay. So you see the moment demo sessions. This batch actually started on the Wednesday. So on the first day, I just went through the what are the topics which we are going to start. Then second day, yesterday, I just went through the introduction of Linux. Today, I think you joined. Today, I just told the structure. Okay, so nothing has started much. So you see the demo session and okay, Naresh, finally you replied. Okay, fine. So you made the payment, Naresh? I was asking you that like, acha, okay, no problem. So at least you attended the session. Are you following or any problem? Up to now, did you understood whatever we have discussed? Earlier also I asked same thing. Most of them they have replied except you. So up to now, is it clear to you? Okay, fine. So when you will be making the payment, yes, Naresh, when you will be making Monday. Okay, fine. Because I think Monday onwards, we'll start the practical and they may change the link. So it is better you pay by Saturday or Sunday or maximum Monday. Okay, you also, Mohammed. Naresh will be paying today, I think. Sorry, this Gangadhara will be paying today. Eunice is already paid. So Eunice, you can just note down this my mail ID. Just a second, others. This is my mail ID. You can just ping to my mail ID so that I will send you the three files, one practical step file, one theory related file with the standalone topic, one file with the network related file, theory part. Theory two files, one lab practical. With that, you can easily do the lab. So I'm just writing my mail ID. Please note down it and ping to my mail ID. So I'll be sending you the practical step file. So better shall we start this tomorrow, the Linux and Windows structure, and we'll compare it. And from Monday onwards, and Monday onwards we'll start the practicals. So Monday I'll the file in which I'll be giving you no Eunice. In that I put everything like this is the file. For other people also I'll be sharing you once you make a payment. So in this file, first I have given the link. You can download the RHL 7 or 8. VMware 15th also is there, 16 also is there. So the links are given, multiple links. And then we'll start the basic. I'll show you how to create a virtual machine through VMware and install the OS. Then all the things from first day to last day I have written in the notepad file with all the headings so that you can do the practical very easily. Apart from that, I made this file, one standalone theory part file and one network admin theory part. So this file also I'll be sending to your mail ID directly. Okay. Okay, fine. So up to now, is it clear to you, Mohammed, what we have gone through the session for today? You can just contact our office and you can get my previous videos. Nothing much we have discussed. First day only the head. No, Mohammed, we are not discussing shell scripting is a separate course. So that's what. In this, see here, these are the topics which we are going to cover. That's why on the first day itself I told, because you should not get any confusion. So see here, these are the topics which we are going to discuss. So this course is divided into two parts, standalone network. First we'll discuss introduction, structure of OS which we are discussing today. Then Monday we'll do the installation, basic commands like how to create files, directory, uh, how to create file using cat, touch, editor, single directory, multiple, what is the absolute path, relative path, soft link, hard link, how to copy, remove, how to remove all those things, basics. Then soft link and hard link, booting process, the run level, then user administration, how to create users, login with different methods, user database file where the user information, group, then permission, in permission, basic file permission, access control list, advanced file permission like uh, set UID, set GID, sticky bit, then disk management, how to create partition, what is swap, how to improve the system performance using swap, then LVM, RAID level, backup using dump command, tar command, how to compress the data using gunzip, then scheduling job using AT, cron T, then how to monitor our servers using process status command and the top command. Then the last part, how to configure the servers. For that, we should know how to install the application like using the RPM and yum because we are discussing through the Red Hat. So in the Red Hat, all application will have .rpm extension. So to install that RPM extension application, how we can install the .rpm application using RPM and yum we'll discuss. After that, we'll discuss how to configure FTP, NFS, and Samba server through which we can do sharing. Like with the FTP, we can share any type of file on any OS, but not directly. With NFS, both files and directory, but only Linux to Linux. With the Samba, from sharing from Linux to Windows, Windows to Linux. Then how to configure the DHCP server through which it will assign the IP to all client, how to configure the DNS server, which will convert name into IP, which will be using to access the website, then to host the website, Apache web server. Okay, so these are the topics which we are going to cover. I think if you see my first day video in more depth, I told, I just give the overview here. Okay, so these are the topics which we are going to cover for this course, which will be about like 32 to 34 days. Okay. So that's it for today. So if you have any questions, any doubt, please ask me. Yes, any doubts? Yunus, Mohammed, Naresh, Gangadhara. Instead of you writing the mail ID, mail ID, Eunice, I'll request you, you ping to my mail ID. I'll send you. I given my mail ID now because when I delete this or close the session, your mail ID, it won't be there. So you just better you ping to my mail ID. I given no my mail ID. This is my mail ID. This. So you can note it down and ping to my mail ID. I'll send you the required document. Okay, you are not able to see. I'll write it once more. Now, did you able to see Eunice, my mail ID? So please note down, ping to my mail ID. I'll send you. Okay. So that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll discuss the structure, where exactly what data will be stored in Windows and Linux. That is called file system. Then from Monday, we will start the practical. Monday, I'll show you how to install the Linux OS, then we'll start. Okay. So can I close this session or any question, any doubt, anyone? Okay, I'm closing this session. Thank you. See you tomorrow.